Welcome, friends of the Greasy Shop Rag. Today we're going to take a look at an Echo CS2511T top panel chainsaw. Customer complaint is that it's a little low on power and probably needs a tune-up. Well, usually when a customer says it needs a tune-up, that means there's something wrong with it and they don't know what it is. So let's dig into this a little bit and see if we can figure out what it is. First thing I like to do is look into the fuel tank and see what they've been burning. And in this case, I mean, that looks like clean, fresh fuel. It doesn't smell bad. There's no sediment in it. I didn't see any water in it. Probably not his fuel that is the cause of the problem. At least not this tank full of fuel. And that's kind of important. You have to... you can only go on the evidence that's in front of you, but sometimes some evidence will point to careless acts from the past, and we can get into that a little bit later. I'm pressure testing the fuel line right now and putting 10 pounds of pressure on it, and it's holding. That's telling me that the fuel line is good and the carburetor is tight. The needle in the carburetor is holding. So that's good. The next thing I like to do is look into the cylinder, and I'm not going to move forward on a repair on a saw that has a scored cylinder. I also want to look at the condition of the spark plug and see what we're dealing with here. So the spark plug itself looks alright. It's not built up with carbon. Let's take the camera out and look into the cylinder and see what we got going on. So it looks like there's a little bit of brown staining on parts of the cylinder wall. And most likely you would see that brown staining on the skirt of the piston as well. There's also a little bit of carbon buildup on top of the piston. And that it's hard to see in this picture here, and I'm not actually pointing at that right area. But there was some staining going on in the piston, indicating that at some point they were running older varnished fuel through here. And that's a big clue when we finally get to what the actual problem is. So just kind of keep that in mind as we move along here. We're putting that plug right back in because there was nothing wrong with it. And I want to run this thing and see what it sounds like. Making sure that the filter is laying down there on the bottom of the tank. And I'm going to put his fuel right back in it so that I can experience the same thing that they were experiencing. Their complaint of low power. Certainly there could be a problem inside the carburetor. But we're not going to jump to any conclusions yet. It primes up nice. Let's see what it sounds like. So there's your problem right there. If you work on these things every day, then you know what the problem is right now. So let me know in the comments if you're familiar with this problem. You can tell right when I pulled the cord that it didn't sound right. It sounded muffled. You might not know that if you don't spend a lot of time working on these things, but if you do spend a lot of time with small engine repair, two-cycle equipment, you should familiarize yourself with the sound of a plugged spark arrestor screen. And that's what we're digging into right now. We're going to pull this screen out and take a look at it. Now, there's a lot of reasons why this screen could be plugged up. And in this case, because I saw some of them brown stains in the cylinder, I suspect at some point that they ran old fuel through here. And old gummy varnished fuel, it can be bad for your piston rings for one, but it also can accumulate in the spark arrestor screen. If you don't run the saw at full throttle a lot of times, if you just run it really slow, take it easy, you're gentle with it, you think you're being good to your saw, you're actually not getting it hot enough to cook some of this carbon out of the screen in the muffler. So let's take a look here. Yeah, she's plugged up, hey. And if air can't get out, air can't get in, the saw is not going to run right. So I'm going to burn the carbon out of here. Now I know there's the potential for melting the screen or making the screen brittle. I haven't had an issue with that. I've been burning them like this for a long time, and I've had them come back and they weren't broken from being brittle. So I just heat them up really good and then blow some air through them and knock the carbon and the ash out. You'll see here in a minute. I get it cherry hot, and then we're going to take the air and just kind of blow it out. Now that's one way to do it. There's chemical methods you could use. You could wire brush it if you want, or you could replace it. I don't recommend that you remove it. You know, a spark coming out of there, you know, you could start a fire, and then, you know, a lot of people could be affected by that. So I'm going to use flame. I'm going to cook this out, and it'll take a few times to get it perfectly clean. I think I even edited a few of those heating and blowing out cycles out of here. But at some point, you'll get all the carbon out, and the screen will be perfectly clean. Like that. So we'll just put it back in, and single screw holds it down into place. Gotta get it kind of lined up here first. I don't even have it oriented right yet. It's kind of a weird shape for a screen. There we go. And a single screw to hold it down into place. And then we'll fire this thing up and see what it sounds like. You know, there's some other things I still have to do to this, like look at the air filter, and he was complaining of an oil leak. We won't get to that in this video. So that's all I'm going to have for you on the Echo CS-2511T chainsaw that needed a spark arrestor screen cleaning. Thanks for watching. Later.